And the 2-2. And he gets away! And this game is over! Unbelievable. 1 out with nobody on.
Oh boy, you think back about all the takes, and the ball looked like it caught a piece of the plate. No, it's way out in front of the plate. Well, when it hits that out, far out in front of the plate, a catcher is so disadvantaged. You don't know how high that ball is going to come up on you. And in the end, Jansen had no chance.
I'm a Giants fan.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
I got to tell you, last night, the 3-run homer goes over the wall, and I went, oh, no.
You turn it off?
I did not turn it off. I did not turn it off.
Turn that ass off. Go to bed. Go to your room.
I'm walking the dog.
Seriously.
That's what I do. That's the kids know, too. That's my marker.
Penny?
I'm taking Penny for a walk.
Is she the kind of dog where you grab the leash and she starts to go crazy because she knows what's about to happen?
Oh, she knows before I even get the leash. She
sees the 3-run homer and she goes, Daddy, you're mad, aren't you? Walk?
There are words that she knows. She knows walk and she knows park. And she knows what movements I make that are heading in that direction. So, and she's a dog. So, like, she's just there, right? She's just like, well, we're here. Are we going on a walk? I'm like, we're not going on a walk. And she'd be like, all right, well, I was here. I was ready. I was ready to go for a walk if you want to go for a walk.
So Luke Jackson comes in from the bullpen.
We're going for a walk. Second Luke gets called in. I'm like, let's go for a walk.
Totally.
I'm not even bringing AirPods on this walk. Let's just hope that it's okay when I get back. Anyway, I saw the 3-run homer go over the fence, and I said, oh, no. Because for whatever reason, the Giants navigating that stretch against the Dodgers and the Guardians and the Braves, and being able to go 5-4 there and kind of hang in, still hanging around. That changed everything as far as this homestand is concerned, because now you get to a stretch of games where two things happen. A, you've got manageable opponents, and are you ready for what started last night? This is weird, I know. Is everybody ready for this? You know what the Giants have on their team right now? I know this is wild. This is going to blow you away. You know what they have on the team right now?
Build it up.
5 starters.
They have 5 now?
5.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Harrison and Hicks.
Snell.
Webby and Snell.
And Birdsong.
And Birdsong. So you're telling me no opener? What about an opener?
No.
Or 2?
Nopener. That's what
3?
I call it. Nopener. Nopener. They've got 5 starters on the team.
For now.
And potentially, I think, in about 14 days, they're going to get another one. His name's Robbie Ray. So, the Giants actually have a baseball team now. They also made a couple of moves that suggest a very, very clear, to me, a very clear angle. And I've read on this, and I've tried to listen to Farhan Zaidi on this, because yesterday I wasn't sure when it was like, we're trading Slater and we're giving the DFA to Nick Ahmed. I'm like, youth movement? No, not youth movement. Trade deadline 3 weeks away, and we are opening up 2 positions of need, and we will give those positions to the young players available, Matos, Fitzgerald, Wisely, and let's see if they can handle them. Because if they can't, then we're going to try to address those at the trade deadline. If they can, then maybe you just keep on riding it out. And that, to me, is why these next 2.5 to 3 weeks of baseball for the Giants are about as important as they come for this regime. Because it is my contention that inside the hallways of the San Francisco Giants and inside the ownership offices, there is not the laissez-faire attitude that exists with the fan base. The fan base right now has been frustrated because it's like, well, we want a star, but like nobody's out there in the streets demanding that they compete with the Dodgers. Let's be real.
Well, you can't.
We're not.
You won't.
They don't.
They should.
The Giants do.
Well, they're about 5 players away from being able to compete with the Dodgers.
That might be true, but that's not even the point. The point is when Gabe Kapler gets fired, I want everyone to understand this arc. Farhan had to go in and pitch something that helped the Giants ownership keep him. They were not like, we hate Gabe, but we love Farhan. This is great. No, 2 years of cratering standings and attendance. People with the last name Johnson were not pleased. So when you go in and have that meeting and Kapler, you're like, okay, we'll move on from Kapler and we'll let you hire another manager, but fill in blank. And I promise you that the things that were put on his plate were A, the ballpark better get filled, and B, this better be a viable playoff contender if we're going to spend the money you're asking us to spend. If we're going to go Snell and Chapman and Soler and Jung-Hoo Lee, don't forget that offseason. They didn't get Shohei. They got just about everybody else. Okay? And if you're going to do that, then this better pay off immediately. The attendance has absolutely gone up. But a losing record 90 games in, trust me, is not okay. It's not okay. And it's why you saw 2 veteran players get sent off the roster in the last 4 days.
Well, they need to make their move now. You've got 18 games between now and the trade deadline and the end of July. In those 18, you've got 7 against Colorado. You've got 2 against Oakland. Those are both at home. And you've got 2 more against Toronto. That is 11 of your 18 against crap. You got 4 at LA. Good luck. And you got 3 against Minnesota before the deadline. The Twins are very good. So 7 good, 11 that are crappy. If you come out of those 18 games, and I know decisions will be made probably before the A's series, but for the sake of the discussion, between now and the end of July, you've got 18 games. If you go 10-8, then you're sitting right at 500. And to back up your point, that won't be good enough. If you go over the next 18 and you're 10-8 and you're 55-55, having played 7 times against Colorado and a couple of Oaklands and this Toronto team that you should, now that you've won the first game, you should be thinking a sweep. 2 out of 3 against Toronto, I don't think is good enough, especially when you talk about what you said. Now you have an actual rotation, so there's no excuses. You don't have to worry about an opener, and you're getting Ray back soon, and Cobb is coming back, and you've got more lineup clarity, and now you've got health for the first time other than Jung-Hoo Lee. Your guys are healthy, so if you do go through that stretch and you don't start to make real headway against these bad teams, well, then we can talk about where that leaves Farhan toward the end of the year.
Well, and that's why I said, when the 3-run homer went over the wall, because I found suddenly, starting last night, there is a pushing up of the urgency, because this was a series that you can win. This is an opponent you're in your home building. My God, Blake Snell pitched 5 innings.
Pay the over.
He finished 5 innings.
You can't overdo that.
And he didn't give up any runs. He barely gave up any hits.
Yeah, it's filthy.
Do you know
July.
Who he looked like?
Blake Snell.
Blake Snell.
Yeah, finally.
So that was a game you had to have. And you got a quirky way of finishing it, but you got it. And now your ace is on the hill tonight. You're headed for the All-Star break. So you're going to get a breather and all of those things. This homestand this week, this is imperative. They are playing 6 games in 6 days. They have got to get 4 of them at a minimum. They have got to get 4 of these 6 and win both of these series, because what it's going to lead to for the trade deadline, I believe, here are the 3 options, right? The Giants could keep middling around 500, and I will promise you right now, those of you, and I bet Larry Krueger will come in tomorrow and he'll be one of these people. You know, the Giants should sell. They're not selling. They're not doing it.
Well, what would they sell? Honestly, I mean, you'd sell Blake Snell, or would you sell Conforto?
Sure.
I mean, that you're not going to sell. I don't know why you would think about that when you're this close to a wild card berth.
Well, but everybody's this close to a wild card berth. There are plenty of people out there. Grandy, are you still one of them? Do you think that the Giants should be sellers right now?
I don't think they should eliminate it from the possibility.
Okay, that's a fair answer. And it's not eliminated from the possibility. I think the only way it happens is if those 18 games that you just mentioned, say they lose about 13 of them. Or
even 10 of them.
Now we're having that conversation.
I think even if you go 8-10, then you're 4 below 500, and you had Colorado 7 times and 2 against the A's and 2 more against Toronto, and you couldn't even hang with that group.
Maybe, but again, here's to me why selling is so incredibly unlikely. If you're Farhan Zaidi, you're sending a note to your boss.
Fire me.
That says fire me.
Totally.
And so he ain't going to do it, even if it's the quote-unquote right thing to do. I'm telling you right now, this dude is not safe for next year.
Well, I don't think anyone's safe.
I'm telling you this. It's not an opinion. I'm telling you this.
Is Bob Melvin safe if you wind up going 70 and 92?
Yes.
Okay, that's a mistake.
Bob Melvin's in his first year.
If they crater, well, he has 2 more years in his deal, and Farhan's got 2 more years in his deal.
But that's those salaries.
And if you bring in a new president of baseball ops and you have a manager in place, you're telling him you don't get to hire a manager. That it usually isn't the way it goes in pro sports.
At a minimum, you can hang out for a little while. People forget that Farhan Zaidi worked with Bruce Bochy.
Right.
He didn't get to come in and hire his manager.
That's a legend.
Yes,
you're not going to come in and you're not going to bag him right away.
They could have waited another year before they hired somebody, is my point. Again, and I've had bosses tell me this before. I won't tell you which companies, but bosses at companies have before told me, I've had these conversations where, you're looking back on things that happened in a company or whatever, and you're like, well, wait a minute. And sometimes you're even talking about yourself. You're like, well, what? There's a contract in place for 2 more years. And people are like, you can do anything you want if you really want.
Of course.
And if Farhan's got 2 more years in his deal. So what? What those guys make is a drop in the bucket compared to what these teams are used to paying. These are people who walked into a room a few months ago and offered someone $700 million. You think they care if they've got to eat 7?
Right.
Because they want a new president of baseball
especially
ops?
When the court of public opinion, which does matter, they would probably shine upon that move. They wouldn't frown upon it. It's not like when you're getting rid of Bruce Bochy and you're trying to make it not look like he was forced out, even though he was forced out. That was an unpopular move. This would probably be a popular move. If you don't do well this year and you replace Farhan Zaidi, more fans would be happy than fans would be sad.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that from an organizational direction standpoint, that is the right move, considering what you set out to ask him to do. I think that he has checked every box, and if the team still doesn't win, how much of that is his fault? I guess it doesn't really matter, because if you go 78 and 84 and you miss out on the wild card and it's another flaccid year and attendance is up 6%, but most of that is Dodger fans and Yankee fans. Well, what's the net result? The net result is your young guys came up, big deal. Jorge Soler didn't do much. Blake Snell pitched 14 times. So something's got to change, and so he's going to be the fall guy.
I'm not even sitting here disagreeing with your point. You can easily sit here and sell me on the idea that would be the wrong move, although I sit here today and I don't know, what the premise is. I don't know how this season is going to end. If you think that it would be too quick after signing Farhan to an extension to make any front office changes, I get that. I'm not even really coming at this from an opinion standpoint. I'm coming at this from the standpoint of this is how I believe the San Francisco Giants organization is thinking right now. And there is an urgency to them that I don't feel in the fan base or the media. I think the fan base and the media comes at this largely from a much more negative, and I think that that's fair, a negative space where they just look at the roster and they go, well, you don't have the horses. You can't play with the Dodgers and the Braves. You don't have the people. And as is usual with any family or business, they look at their people and they go, no, we think we have the people. And the owner's like, I don't care who the names are. I know what I spent. and I spent at a level that should win. And you told me, Farhan, that if I spent this money, we'd win. You walked in here and you told me when I fired Gabe Kapler, this was your plan and it was going to work and it was going to fill the building and we were going to at least finish in second place and be a wild card team. Okay, well, that's the walking orders. And as you said a couple times earlier in the show, it gets to a point where it doesn't matter if it's his fault or not. You know, Greg Johnson already publicly said, and this went a little under the radar, what'd you learn this offseason? He goes, I learned that we would not sign a pitcher after spring training's already over. We're never going to do that again.
Yeah.
Well, who do you think sold him on that idea? So, and I firmly believe that was mainly Boris's fault rather than the Giants. I think Boris thought that the Giants' offer would come up and other offers would come in if they would wait, and they didn't. And so they had to eat the offer that they already had on the table from the Giants. And I think that Blake Snell probably had a shouting match with Scott Boras. That's my guess. So I don't know if, like you said, I don't know if it's Farhan's fault, but the bottom line is they went about the offseason a certain way. He went in there. He sold them on, keep me, extend me, here's my plan. And I think that plan was like, dude, we're in a now space now. There's no more like, oh, I hope that we're going to move this chess piece around and set it up. No.
We're going to Rule 5. We're going to get Blake Sable in a Rule 5 find.
Lord. Yeah, like we're not. Like,
I ran down his moves last week, all 78 of the trades he's made. And, this year it hasn't been as active. You're right. It's like you got a manager who wanted a set lineup. You went out to get a set lineup, and you did that. You needed help in the rotation. You brought in the Cy Young Award winner, and you did that. So I do think that the things that he was charged with doing get more exciting. Jung-Hoo Lee, Jorge Soler, get more quality starting pitching. Blake Snell, get a team that's more exciting to fans. Attendance is up by 8%. So I look at all the things that he was asked to do. I think that he went out and did them to the best of his ability. And if it doesn't lead to winning, I get it. Winning is the end-all, be-all, and it's the bottom-line business and all the rest of it. But I don't think that Farhan Zaidi went out and didn't get the job done based on what they wanted him to do.
This is a quote from yesterday.
From?
Farhan Zaidi.
I gotta get that down. It's Thank you. I'll work on it over the weekend.
That did get better. We're still 3 games under 500. This is before the game. We're still 3 games under 500. We've got to find a way to get better.
Yeah.
We've got to find a way to get better. Not, hey, Ramos is an all-star and we think Matos and what. No, we have got to win baseball games.
So his move is get a shortstop to play who can hit better than Nick Ahmed. So you make that move.
Well,
Fitzgerald, Fitzy, and Wisely, you're our guy.
Are they ready? Right. Are they ready to hold it down?
Right.
Listen to what he said. He continued, turning to some of these internal options, young players that we think can continue to inject this team with energy and help us. I think it's a fair statement to say that giving them a sizable opportunity in this last few weeks before the deadline will help inform what we do there. So they did not tell Matos and Fitzgerald, you're our guy for the rest of the year. They told them, you're our guys for the rest of July.
Yeah.
And if you stink up the joint, we're going to go find someone else.
Well, that will inform them as to what they need to do at the deadline. Because you're right about Farhan. He is, I don't know about desperate.
Desperate.
I don't know if desperate's fair, but
I like that word.
He's under pressure. He is feeling the pressure to go out there and get this team in the playoffs. We can say that.
This is from Andy Baggerly in The Athletic.
Sorry, wrong guy.
Given the draft picks they punted to sign Snell and Chapman, a payroll that takes them past the luxury tax threshold, and a baseball operations group that might face a reckoning if the Giants fail to make the postseason, this is an organization that is too pot committed to consider selling regardless of what happens over the next 3 weeks. Desperate.
Yeah, they're definitely pot committed. And, I don't think that it's an all-in situation, but you might get past the deadline, and if you don't make any moves, and if these younger guys who you're hoping will stick, Matos and Fitzgerald and Wisely, Ramos looks like he's the real deal, so I'll keep him out of it. But
yeah, Ramos trade the guy right after the All-Star game.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of his fortunes will rise and or fall based on those three players.
Well, I wonder because again,
if he can't do anything at the deadline,
yeah. But if shortstop is stinking, yeah, then they'll go be aggressive at the deadline. If those guys are all playing really well and it doesn't look like the team really has any holes out there, it may be very quiet. It might be very quiet. And I could actually look at this roster and sort of understand it. As much as everybody's like, you got to be aggressive, man. You got to go get something at the deadline. All right, who is it that you'd like to bench? You benching Chapman? Estrada? Wade? Ramos or Matos?
Bailey?
Bailey, right?
I mean,
as the pitchers get healthy, you want another starter?
Right.
You want a new closer? Maybe go pick up and shore up your middle relief, get another reliever, stop putting Luke Jackson in baseball games, maybe something like that.
Or get one additional right-handed bat, somebody who can, get out there and play the outfield, give you a little bit of insurance.
Okay.
Insurance off the bench.
Yeah, I dig that. That makes sense to me. You could sell me on the corner outfield spots right now are not great. Yaz and Conforto aren't terrible. They're not great. But what's out there? What are you giving up for that? I could see it being a quiet deadline, but that's my point. These next 18 games, my God, they're huge. There is so much on the line in every one of these games. That's what I thought last night. My goodness, that was a dramatic finish.
Yeah.
When you tuck it into everything we just talked about.
Well, when you look at the backdrop of these final 19 before the deadline, Toronto is a series you should win. Colorado, you should win both series, and you should sweep Oakland in the end of July. Dodgers are going to be tough on the road. It's a 4-gamer. And this Minnesota series coming up later this week is another one that could be a swing series, but over the next 18, if you win fewer than 10 of these next 18, you could have real problems.